The moon trembles beneath them as if afraid to breathe, and for a heartbeat, the universe forgets whose finger rests on the trigger. She sees him first, a shape of living light standing in the ruins, glowing like a wound in the dark. And every lesson she ever learned screams fire. But something older rises inside her, something she can't name, and the shot freezes in her chest. He steps forward as if unafraid of death, as if he has already met it, and the dust around them stirs with symbols that pulse like quiet warnings. Who carved these signs into the stone? Why do they shine brighter when the two of them stand near? The silence grows heavy, pressing them together instead of pulling them apart, and she wonders if fate made a mistake, or if their leaders lied about everything. When his eyes finally meet hers, she feels the weight of a truth she isn't ready for, and a fear that isn't part of her training. Something connects them, fragile yet unbreakable, and she knows nothing will ever be the same again. The moon's wind dies as they circle one another, no longer hunters, not yet allies, each afraid to speak the truth forming in their chests. She feels the weight of the training drilled into her since childhood, but the silence between them is louder than any command. He studies her with quiet focus, sensing that something ancient has shifted, something not meant for war. She wonders why he hesitated, why she did too, and why the ground itself seemed to respond to both of them at once. The fear isn't of him, it's of what this moment means. A distant explosion rolls across the horizon, reminding them that armies are closing in, hungry for blood and answers neither of them can give. She lowers her weapon fully for the first time since she was a child, feeling strangely lighter, while he listens to a frequency only his kind can hear. Something calls to him, fear from his people, urgency from hers. Both sides want this meeting erased. Both sides fear what they might discover together. The symbols beneath their feet pulse again, brighter than before, as if begging them to move before the armies reach them. A soft rumble shakes the broken plateau, and she stumbles forward, right into his outstretched hand. For a moment, their contact unlocks a rush of warmth that doesn't belong to either species. She pulls back quickly, breathless, but the echo of that connection lingers like a whispered truth she's not ready to accept. A sharp alarm pierces the air. Her own squad is almost on top of them. She looks at him, torn between duty and instinct, between everything she was taught and everything she just felt. He steps back, offering her the space to choose, but something in his eyes says he already knows the choice she'll make. With one last glance at the approaching soldiers, she reaches toward him, not to kill, but to run. And as they leap into the shadows of the canyon below, she realizes fear isn't what drives her now. It's the strange, impossible pull that kept her finger frozen on the trigger. The canyon swallows their footsteps as the alarms above fade into a frantic storm of orders and confusion. She presses her back to the cold stone, breath shaking, knowing her squad is tracking her heat signature and will not hesitate to shoot if she stands beside him. He senses danger too, his body glowing faintly with warning pulses, but instead of running alone, he waits for her. The sky rips open with searchlights as both armies scatter across the surface, hunting not two enemies, but two mistakes. She listens to the distant echo of voices calling her name. Voices she once trusted, and realizes they don't sound like home anymore. He looks toward the ridge where his own people land in silent formation, their patterns of light spelling judgment. Surrounded on all sides, they share a single truth. The moment they hesitated to kill, they became the hunted. She leads him deeper into the maze of stone, each turn guided by memories of escape drills she never thought she'd use to flee her own people. He follows with silent precision, trusting her path even when it tightens to narrow gaps and broken ledges. A distant roar shakes the canyon, the sound of engines from two different armies, both closing in fast. She stops at a fork marked with an old mining symbol, one she remembers from childhood stories. And for the first time, she feels the weight of choice settle on her shoulders like a living thing. A sudden broadcast echoes through the canyon, glitching across frequencies both human and alien. At first, it's just static. Then scattered words rise from the noise. Warnings, commands, and faint whispers of something older. He recognizes one of the fragments, a phrase forbidden in his language, and his breath catches with unfamiliar fear. She stares at him, seeing the change in his posture, and realizes he heard something she didn't. The canyon walls hold a sound longer than they should, stretching it like a forgotten memory, trying to reach them. They finally reach a narrow cavern where old machinery rusts in frozen silence. She kneels beside a broken console, brushing away dust until the screen blinks weakly alive. The alien steps closer, his light merging with the display, revealing hidden layers buried beneath human tech. Together they watch a map unfold. Routes, energy trails, and something pulsing near the edge of the moon, marked with an unfamiliar symbol. She doesn't know what it means, but he does. And the look in his eyes tells her it's worse than anything her leaders ever warned her about. Footsteps thunder above them, multiple squads, both species, converging on the canyon's mouth. She shuts down the console and grabs his arm, but he's already listening to the vibrations in the stone, sensing the danger before she hears it. Their escape options narrow with every passing second. She looks at him, not for permission but for confirmation, and he nods. They move together, faster than either could alone, slipping into a dark tunnel that angles downward into the planet's forgotten depths. For the first time, she feels the shape of a future she never imagined. Surviving with him, not against him. The tunnel drops them into a cavern so wide it swallows sound. Its ceiling, lined with crystals that glow like frozen lightning. She steps forward carefully, feeling the ground hum beneath her boots, a rhythm too steady to be natural. He recognizes it instantly. The same frequency that marks sacred places in his world. Yet this chamber is human-made, carved with machines, not grown from light. Their two histories should never intersect. Yet here they pulse together in the stone. She runs her hand across a collapsed support beam, noticing scorch marks that don't match human weaponry. He kneels, touching shards embedded in the floor, fragments from a blast his people were never told about. The truth hides here, heavy as the shadows around them, and as they walk deeper, she realizes they're not uncovering a battlefield. They're walking through the bones of a lie. They move through the ruins in silence, each step revealing scars of a battle that shouldn't exist. Human tools melted by alien light, alien armor shattered by human explosives, all fused together, as if someone forced the collision. She feels a chill crawl up her spine as she studies the wreckage. None of this matches the reports she memorized during training. He examines a half-buried mask shaped like his own people's style, but carved with symbols they never use. Every clue points to one impossible conclusion. Someone wanted this place to look like the birthplace of war. She watches him stand up slowly, his expression tight, and she understands without words. They've both been lied to for far longer than they knew. A dim corridor opens before them, lined with consoles long since drained of power. She brushes dust from one, expecting dead metal. Yet the screen flickers awake the moment he steps close. Their combined presence triggers it, as if the machine has been waiting for them. A distorted recording appears. Figures cloaked in shadow speaking in calm, calculated tones. Not human, not alien. Something in between. She leans closer, heart pounding, as the voice mentions Brightfall. Not as a tragedy or accident, but as a controlled ignition. He stiffens beside her, breath catching like someone hit him. The feed cuts out, leaving only static and the weight of a truth too sharp to touch. They follow the corridor into a chamber filled with shattered containment pods, each one marked with both human serial codes and alien glyphs. She stares at them, trying to make sense of the impossible pairing, while he touches one of the fractured panels and feels a faint echo of energy respond. These pods didn't hold weapons. They held beings, or something meant to become beings. Her throat tightens as she imagines children raised for war, shaped for destruction, forced into roles they never chose. He senses her fear and steps closer, not speaking, but offering a steady presence in the dim light. Together they realize Brightfall wasn't the start of the war. It was the birth of an experiment. A deep rumble echoes through the facility as power surges to life somewhere below. She steadies herself, knowing they've tripped something that cannot be undone. He turns toward the sound, eyes glowing brighter with rising urgency. The walls vibrate with a slow, synchronized pulse, the same rhythm that tied them together when they first met. Whatever woke beneath the surface knows they're here, and wants them to see what comes next. She grips her weapon, though they both know it won't matter against the truth waiting in the dark. Together, they descend toward the last chamber of Brightfall, where every answer hides and every lie began. The chamber at the heart of Brightfall opens like a wound in the earth, its walls lined with memories neither species ever meant to see. She steps inside cautiously, feeling the tension in the air thicken with each breath. He moves beside her, his glow dimmed, not out of fear but reverence, as if some ancient part of him recognizes this place. A circular platform rises from the floor, projecting images of human soldiers and alien warriors, children then adults, trained apart but built from the same blueprint. She feels her stomach twist as she watches the timelines overlap, revealing a truth no allegiance can survive. He turns to her, not seeking forgiveness, but offering shared understanding. In this moment, she realizes they are both survivors of the same lie, shaped by hands that cared nothing for life. The walls hum, responding to the sudden unity between them, and for the first time she feels strength in standing beside him instead of against him. Footsteps echo down the corridor before she can catch her breath. Human soldiers armored and armed flood the entrance with weapons drawn. Her name ricochets off the metal walls, sharpened by betrayal. She recognizes the voice of her mentor, the man who once taught her how to survive. His orders are clear: retrieve her alive, eliminate the alien. She feels a cold weight settle in her chest as she realizes her hesitation has already been judged as treason. The alien steps forward protectively, not out of dominance, but instinct born from the connection forged between them. She lifts her weapon not toward him, but toward the very people who once shaped her into a perfect soldier. A blast of radiant energy shakes the chamber before the first shot can fire. Alien warriors descend from the ceiling vents, moving like flowing light, their arrival a silent storm. They surround the humans, forcing them back with flashes of controlled brilliance. He steps forward, calling out to them in his native tongue, but the response is harsh. Orders to separate him from the human, to bring him home for purification. She watches fear flicker across his face, the rare kind that comes not from danger, but from losing the fragile bond they've built. The armies glare at one another across a field of broken stone, unaware that neither side understands the truth trembling beneath their feet. The tension erupts when a human soldier fires a panicked shot. The alien deflects it instinctively, but the recoil sends him stumbling toward her. She catches him, their breaths colliding in the chaos, and for a moment, the world narrows to the pulse between their hands. The army surge forward, clashing in a storm of sparks and shouts, each side determined to drag them apart. She grabs his wrist and pulls him through a collapsing side corridor, knowing neither army will stop until one of them lies dead. As the tunnel seals behind them with falling debris, she feels the truth settle like a flame in her chest. She isn't just saving him anymore, she's choosing him. They emerge into a hidden chamber, pulsing with soft blue light, untouched by centuries of war. In the center stands a crystalline structure shaped like intertwined spirals, glowing in sync with their heartbeat. She steps closer, drawn by an ache she never knew she carried. He joins her, and as their shadows merge on the floor, The spirals flare bright, recognizing them as two halves of the same design. The revelation washes over them slowly. Brightfall wasn't just an experiment. It was the moment they were both created. One shaped by light, the other by blood, destined to resonate. She meets his gaze, feeling the bond deepening into something neither army could ever permit. The chamber hums with possibility, whispering a truth she can no longer ignore. Together, they were meant to break the cycle. The chamber's soft blue glow flickers, then tightens into a sharp beam that scans across their bodies, tracing the invisible link neither of them asked for. She grips the alien's arm, steadying herself as the air thickens until it feels like the walls are breathing. He tilts his head, eyes widening with a sudden recognition that doesn't belong to memory. It belongs to instinct. A low hum rises from the crystalline spirals, building into a voice that isn't spoken, yet fills their minds. She staggers as images crash into her thoughts. Laboratories hidden in the void, faceless figures shaping DNA with cold precision, two children separated before they ever open their eyes. He reaches for her, their hands brushing, and the chamber responds with a violent pulse. The voice grows clearer, steady, ancient, and terrifyingly calm. The architects have been watching, and now they are waking. The ground trembles, and a hidden door unseals, releasing cold air that smells of metal and forgotten truths. She hesitates, sensing danger that feels too calculated to be accidental. He steps forward first, compelled by something he cannot fight, as though a thread inside his chest is being pulled. Together they move into a long corridor lined with smooth black walls that reflect shifting shapes that almost look like themselves, but altered, perfected, weaponized. The deeper they walk, the more her skin prickles with the uneasy awareness that they aren't entering an enemy stronghold. They're walking into the place they were designed for. The corridor opens into a vast chamber where a towering structure pulses like a sleeping heart. Consoles light up as they approach, projecting symbols that twist into meaning before their eyes. She watches in disbelief as her own image appears beside his, lines of genetic code weaving together in synchronized patterns. He touches the projection, and it reacts instantly, unlocking a deeper layer. Two silhouettes formed long before either species learned to travel the stars. The realization strikes them both at once. They were not born enemies. They were engineered as a pair, a bridge meant to control entire civilizations. Rage and sorrow mix in her chest, but beneath it all lies something stronger, the fierce determination to choose her own path. A soft ripple passes through the air, and the architects finally reveal themselves, not in bodies, but in shimmering forms that flicker like reflections in water. Their voices layer into one, neither hostile nor kind, simply certain. They explain with chilling clarity that the war was never about territory or survival. It was maintenance, a cycle meant to keep both species dependent and divided. She clenches her fists as the truth crashes through her, furious at every stolen childhood, every false command. Beside her, the alien stands rigid, glowing brighter with each word, his anger quiet but powerful. The architects offer them a choice: return to their people as leaders shaped by design, or destroy the cycle and face a future no mind has mapped before. She meets his gaze. This time, neither of them hesitates. The moment they refuse, the chamber erupts with violent energy. Light fractures across the walls as alarms thunder like the heartbeat of an awakening giant. She grabs the alien's hand, bracing herself as the floor splits open beneath them to reveal spiraling machinery powering up for defense. He steadies her, channeling his own luminous strength to shield them both. Together they sprint toward the exit, dodging beams that twist the air into razor-edged currents. The architects' voices follow them, promising consequences beyond imagination. But she feels something new burning inside her. Freedom, raw and terrifying. As they leap through a collapsing doorway and the chamber seals behind them, she knows there is no turning back. They have chosen to break the world. Now, they must survive the cost. The ground shudders as they reach the surface, and the sky above burns with trails of fire. Human ships and alien cruisers tearing through the clouds in a desperate scramble for dominance. She shields her eyes from the explosions, heart hammering as she realizes both armies are no longer searching for them. They're preparing to annihilate each other. He lifts his gaze, recognizing formation patterns meant for total destruction, and a hollow dread settles in his chest. The architect's warning echoes through her mind, but she refuses to believe fate is locked. They stand together on the shattered ridge, watching the first volley of war light the moon in violent colors, and she knows their next step will decide who lives, who dies, and whether truth can survive a sky already falling. Apart. Two. Apart. West. They race toward the valley where both armies gather, each side preparing weapons capable of turning the moon into dust. She spots her former squad forming a perimeter, their faces carved with the resolve of people who believe they're stopping a threat, not protecting a lie. He sees his own warriors assembling into a luminous phalanx, their bodies glowing with readiness for a final strike. Between them lies a stretch of ground littered with broken machines and the ghosts of battles past. She slows, fear twisting through her. Not fear of dying, but fear of failing to stop what's coming. He stands beside her, steady and certain, and together they step into the no-man's land where hope cannot survive unless they drag it there themselves. The first wave hits before they can speak. Tremors rip through the valley as explosives detonate in bursts of red and white. She grabs his arm and dives behind a fallen engine core, while alien beams slice the air overhead, turning dust into blinding light. He pulls her close, shielding her with his glow, as the ground trembles like a living thing. For a moment, they are small against the fury of two species, but not powerless. She rises, shouting warnings that vanish in the roar of war, while he channels a surge of energy that bends the beams around them instead of through them. Their unity distorts the battlefield itself, creating a pocket of stillness in the middle of chaos, a fragile heartbeat where the truth tries desperately to breathe. Through the smoke, a towering structure rises, an architect conduit forcing the battle into escalation, feeding both armies with false signals that ignite deeper rage. She stares in horror as humans and aliens strike harder, convinced the other side escalated first. He grips her shoulder, sensing the conduit pulling power from their combined presence, using them like keys to unlock devastation. The realization slams into her. The architects aren't just observing. They're steering the war into a final consuming blaze. She meets his eyes. No hesitation left. They both know what they have to do. Destroy the conduit, and the war collapses with it. They sprint toward the conduit as the battlefield erupts in a frenzy, every explosion echoing the architect's desperation to maintain control. She weaves through falling debris while he unleashes bursts of light that shield their path, each step drawing them closer to the core. The structure senses their intent, releasing spirals of energy that crash into the ground like lightning. She leaps onto a broken platform, reaching the main panel, its symbols swirling as if alive. He joins her, pressing his hand beside hers, their energies merging into a single unstoppable force. The conduit fights back, screaming with metallic fury, but their connection burns hotter, brighter, truer. With a final surge, the core fractures, releasing a shock wave that sweeps across the valley. The armies freeze, weapons falling silent as the illusion shatters. For the first time, the sky stops burning. Silence settles over the valley like a blanket dropped from the heavens, soft but heavy with everything that has been broken. She rises slowly, dust drifting from her armor, her body trembling from the shock wave that ended the battle without a single victor. He stands beside her, glow dimmed but steady, watching both armies stare at the shattered conduit with stunned realization. There is no hatred in their eyes now, only confusion, grief, and the slow, painful birth of truth. She steps forward, knowing that the next words spoken on this field will shape the future more than any weapon ever could. He follows, ready to face whatever comes, even if both their worlds turn against them. Today, the war stopped. What happens next is a choice they must make together. Commander Rael pushes through the crowd of stunned soldiers, his expression fractured by disbelief. For the first time, she sees uncertainty etched into the man who once shaped her into a weapon. He raises his weapon out of instinct, but his hand shakes, not from rage, but from a lifetime of realizing he followed the wrong truth. The alien elders arrive on the opposite ridge, glowing in rigid formation, their authority dimming with every hesitant step. She stands between the leaders, heart pounding, knowing her voice is all she has. The alien warrior steps beside her, offering silent strength, and she speaks, not as a soldier, not as a traitor, but as someone finally choosing her own future. Her words fall softly, but the silence makes them thunder. Her truth spreads across the field like ripples through still water. She speaks of lies buried under bright fall, of children shaped for war, of a connection forged not by destiny, but by design. Some soldiers look away, ashamed. Others look angry, not at her, but at the invisible hands that manipulated generations. He adds his voice, steady and resonant, describing the architect's control that ran so deep his people never questioned. Human and alien warriors listen, not as enemies, but as survivors of the same machinery. For the first time, both sides realize they've been fighting shadows instead of each other. And in that fragile moment, the war that shaped their entire lives feels smaller than the hope rising between them. The sun pierces the clouds in slender beams, illuminating the battlefield with a gentle warmth that feels almost like forgiveness. She watches as the first human soldier lowers their weapon, followed by an alien warrior whose glow flickers with uncertainty. One by one, both sides follow, creating a path of surrender that isn't defeat. It's awakening. He stands beside her, shoulders easing for the first time since they met, as if the universe finally loosened its grip on him. She breathes deeply, realizing she no longer feels the weight of orders pressing against her rib. The war is not healed, not yet, but its spine has snapped, leaving room for something new to grow in its place. At the edge of the valley, where the shattered conduit still smolders, they stand alone for a final moment. She looks at him, seeing not the enemy she was trained to kill, or the weapon he was forced to become, but the person who stood beside her when truth demanded courage. He steps closer, the soft glow of his body reflecting in her eyes, and the space between them feels like the start of something the architects never planned for. Their worlds may resist them, question them, even fear them, but the bond they share is no longer a mistake. It's a promise. As the wind carries the ashes of the old war into the distant horizon, she knows they are neither human nor alien alone. They are the spark that will rewrite the stars, and together they walk into the new dawn.